I originally was not going to be doing this video on the topic of pride for the 7 deadly sins that I've been covering during Lent, but because it's been put on my heart to talk about it, and in particular something that I want to expose to the light today, that's the reason why I'm doing this video. And there is just so much to say on the topic of pride, and I feel like in that video about vanity, I didn't talk that much about it. It was more all around vanity. And so I'm still going to keep that in the playlist, but today specifically, I'm going to be talking about pride, and you'll understand why. First, we're actually going to break down what pride is all about. So pride is actually Satan's original sin. And if you want to break it down to the simplest form, what does pride mean? It's basically us trying to play God. We actually see this in Isaiah 14:12-15, so let's take a look. How did you come to fall from the heavens, day star, son of dawn? How did you come to be thrown to the ground, conqueror of nations? You who used to think to yourself, I shall scale the heavens, higher than the stars of God. I shall set my throne. I shall sit on the mount of assembly far away to the north. I shall climb high above the clouds. I shall rival the Most High. Now you have been flung down to Shiloh, into the depths of the abyss. Pride was at the root of original sin. We see this in the garden when the devil tempts Eve. Let's quickly take a look at that at Genesis 3:5-6. No, you will not die. God knows, in fact, that the day you eat it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like gods, knowing good from evil. The woman saw that the tree was good to eat and pleasing to the eye, and that it was enticing for the wisdom that it could give. This is the thing, all sin is rooted in pride. Because at the end of the day, sin is simply saying, God, I know what you want, but I'm going to do what I want to do. It's basically saying that we know what's best for ourselves. I don't need God. And that's exactly the message of society today, which honestly makes a lot of sense because Satan is the prince of this world. And that is the message that we hear in this world today. Do what is best for you. Do whatever you want. That being said, I want to share my story quickly. This is something that I've never talked about. I've never admitted publicly. So yeah. However, it's been really put on my heart to bring this to light. Essentially, about 10 years ago or so, when I first got into entrepreneurship and for my first business, I actually bought my followers on Instagram. And the reason why I did that was because, this was a brand new account, a brand new business. I was trying to build a brand online, and I knew that having those high numbers was going to build credibility for the brand. And if I'm being honest, it really did work and it helped build my brand a lot faster because of that illusion of already having that influence, even though it wasn't real. So even though it was working out in a way, I never felt right about it. And it was always like this dark secret in a way. At the end of the day, I was lying about my numbers. And honestly, it was just bothering me, especially when people would bring it up. Like they'd just be like, oh, how did you get so many followers? How did you build your brand? How do you do, this, that? And it was just like, I always had to lie because I was too embarrassed to tell the truth. I kept it hidden because my pride would not allow me to tell the truth. You see that pride is not just about boasting or arrogance. It is also about the fear of someone figuring out who you truly are. At the end of the day, it was my ego. It was my pride that was keeping me silent. And I'm sharing this not because I'm so proud of it. It is still very embarrassing, but I know that keeping things hidden in the dark is never a good thing. And everything that you are hiding should be brought to light. At the end of the day, I'm no longer embarrassed by the things that I've done in the past, all the stupid things that I've done. It just is what it is. And I refuse to keep things hidden because that's exactly what the devil wants. Every time you keep these secrets that are causing you to lie all the time and you're just keeping these things hidden because out of fear or shame or, embarrassment or this and that, the devil now has a stronghold on you. So that's why I truly do believe that if you have anything that is like that, that's causing this fear in you, causing this embarrassment, shame, and that kind of stuff, you need to bring it out to the light. And he knows at the end of the day, if you bring it out of the dark into the light, then you will be healed. And he doesn't want you to be healed. That's why I think it's so important that we need to ask ourselves these really important questions. Like, is there something in my life right now that I'm keeping hidden out of fear, out of embarrassment, out of shame? And then really think about it. What would it look like if I brought this into the light? So if it is a sin, please go to confession so that you can be healed and it can be brought into the light. And if it's something that, isn't a sin or anything like that, but it's still something that you're hiding, talk to someone that you trust and be honest and actually tell someone. Because pride is going to tell you, no, protect your image, don't say anything. But humility is going to say, let God write your story. So once I started to reflect on this secret of mine, I started to see how much pride was actually operating in all of it. See, the reason why I bought those Instagram followers was because I wanted to build credibility for my brand, my personal brand online. Because pride says, I need to appear successful even if it's not true. At the end of the day, I was choosing my image over my integrity. And the consequence of that was that I was starting to feel like I was living a double life. What people saw online and then what was actually happening. Because at the end of the day, it was deception, it wasn't real. It was all fake. Even the very fact that I've been keeping this a secret, for 10 years. Okay, so little caveat here. I did tell like one person, which was, my best friend at the time and coworker, whatever. And he actually encouraged me to do it. So, he didn't see anything wrong with it at the time. So he was the only one that knew, but it was like a secret for everybody else, basically. I never told anyone else. And I was ashamed to tell other people, And I remember even telling him, that I was feeling this way and that I wanted to just start over and like delete that page and this and that because it was bothering me that much. But he just basically convinced me how I was just being ridiculous. At least that's how he saw it at the time, and didn't think it was a big deal at all. And so basically I was convinced that it wasn't a big deal, but it always bothered me. Like years later, it still bothered me because at the end of the day, integrity is so important, especially integrity with myself. And I think that's for everyone, like every human person, we do care about this at our core. And personally, I didn't like that it was causing me to sin because essentially it was causing me to lie. I found myself lying all the time because people would ask about my follower count and I would lie about it. I wouldn't tell the truth. I wouldn't say that I bought those followers because I was embarrassed by it. Pride creates this fear in you that you're going to be exposed. You start to have thoughts like, if people only really knew, what would they actually think about me? You see that shame actually hides the truth. But this is only causing you more wounds within, and it is preventing your healing. So please, if you have something that is bothering you, that you feel like you're hiding, it's causing you to lie and sin and this and that, then please expose it as soon as possible. Do not wait 10 plus years to do it because it's going to get harder, right? You need to expose it as soon as possible because the longer you're hiding something, the worse it's going to get. Another thing I noticed how pride was operating in the situation was that pride basically tells you, what's best. This is the right way, this is the right thing to do. So I'm going to make it happen my way. See, at the end of the day, this was my bright idea. I never actually thought to ask myself, is this the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do? I was just thinking about my results and my goals and things of that nature. And I was really just thinking this is the best thing to do at the time. I didn't consult God. But at the same time, I wasn't close to God at all at that time. So that wasn't even in my radar. I was just living like the world. I didn't even consider God at all. I was always making my own decisions. I always did what I thought was best for me. So, I was living a godless life. But for all of you who do follow Jesus, this is why it is so important that we're not just making decisions that we think are best, that we're actually looking to God first and asking Him, being Spirit-led. And that's a video that I actually want to talk about in the future is, how to be Spirit-led, because it's so important. If you want to be a disciple of Jesus, then you need to be Spirit-led. So stop trying to do things your way all the time, trying to find these shortcuts. Instead, look to God. And also, you need to trust His timing. Pride is going to rationalize results over righteousness. Even if no one knows except for you and you feel like it doesn't affect anyone, at the end of the day, you are losing integrity with yourself. You know that it's going to cause you to lie because you have to keep up this lie, essentially, which is a sin. So it is wrong. And at the end of the day, our compass needs to be Jesus. So ask yourself, is this something that Jesus would do? If the answer is no, then you also should not be doing it. That should be our standard of following Christ. Is Christ himself? Is this something that Jesus would do or not? A big temptation here is the belief that the ends justify the means. And when I would hear people say that, I never really understood what that meant at first, but simply when you break it down, all it means is that if it works, it's okay. It's okay if I have to bend the rules a little bit to get to that result. That is good. So the end for my situation is, getting those followers simply to build credibility for my brand. And that is a goal that in itself is not a bad thing. But the means that I got there, which was buying the followers and misleading people, that is the thing that is wrong. See, pride convinces us that our goals are more important and that it's okay to cut corners. It's not a big deal. We become the judge of what is right and wrong instead of looking to God's standards. We have to remember that at the end of the day, getting these results, these numbers, hitting our goals, all of these things are just worldly things. Everything in this world is going to pass away. None of it truly matters. What the world calls success does not actually matter. We are called to do God's will. We are called to imitate Christ. That's what actually matters because that's what affects us eternally, right? Everything here in this world is temporal. It will all pass away. So now let's get into the part of the video where we're going to talk about different ways that we could actually overcome this vice of pride. First, we're going to look at the virtue of all virtues, which will defeat the vice of all vice, which is pride. And that is going to be humility. Humility is what's going to allow you to bring that shame to light. I've said this before, you cannot be humble if you're not vulnerable. And humility begins with telling the truth. In John 8:32, it says, "The truth will set you free." But of course, only if we're brave enough to face it. Pride is telling you, hide it. It's not a big deal. But humility is saying, reveal it and heal from it. And remember that Jesus said in Luke 8:17, "Nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest." Hiding it does not protect you. Everything eventually will come to light. If anything, you're just prolonging and making the wounds worse and preventing your healing. This leads me to number 2, which is going to be going to the sacrament of confession. The best way to bring your shame, your darkness to light is through the sacrament of confession. Pride is going to tell you, I'm fine, I don't need to go to confession. But humility says, I need God's grace, I need God's mercy. Confession is the antidote to self-reliance. Also, I think it's really important to know here that pride, honestly, is so hidden most of the time. It's in our blind spots a lot of the time. So doing like a daily examination and just kind of looking over your day at the end of the day is really good because you can kind of just see like, these are the actions I took today. These are my motives. Or obviously, if you're constantly in the Word, that's going to bring up a few things as well. Doing examinations of conscience, all that kind of stuff is very important. But I'm just saying daily reflect and actually write it down so that you can kind of start to recognize those hidden little things that come up. And before I move on the topic of humility, again, I'm going to really highly recommend the prayer called the Litany of Humility, which I've already talked about on this channel. But I really do think it's a powerful prayer for anyone who struggles with pride. And I do think, though, you really need to meditate on what you're saying. Don't just like mindlessly read prayers without really thinking about what you're saying and meditating on it and let it really dive deep into your heart, because that's when it's really going to transform you. And I do think that if you do struggle with pride, which most of us do, right? All of us have it at some level because pride is the root of all sin. So we all struggle with this. So what I'm saying is, all of us struggle with it. I truly believe that if you read that prayer, you're going to see how much you can relate to it. And so saying it heartfelt is really going to be powerful. And I'm also going to recommend the Rosary. Specifically, the Joyful Mysteries is amazing for this, and I will explain why. You see, Mary is the perfect example of someone who is humble. You see, Mary's humility is the answer to Eve's pride. When we really meditate on Mary's yes, it will really start to transform you within. Personally, the rosary to me is a non-negotiable, and it is something that has truly changed my life. And I do truly believe if you really pray the rosary with your heart and really meditate on the life of Mary and Jesus, it will truly start to change you. And it is just very powerful. I just really believe in the power of the rosary. And so I do think this is something that you should be doing. Also, I heard it was said something along the lines that you cannot pray the rosary and do mortal sin at the same time. Like one is going to win. So either you're praying the rosary or, struggling with mortal sin or whatever it is. So I thought that was really interesting. All I know is that I truly do believe that the rosary has helped change my life. And I do think so many graces have been poured out because of it. So I am going to highly recommend it to you guys as well. Lastly, I have some journal prompts that I think could be extremely helpful if you really truly meditate and think and reflect about them. The first question that I want you to ask yourself is, what parts of my life am I trying to really be in control and having a hard time surrendering over to God? Next, am I hiding something that I know needs to be brought to the light? Another good journal prompt in general is, how can I empty myself today to imitate Christ? If you really take the time to meditate, reflect on this, I know that God will lead you in the right path. And like always, we need to pray and ask God for help. We cannot do anything by ourselves. So we need to constantly be praying for humility and for God to reveal those hidden things within us, that hidden pride within us. We need to ask Him to reveal it to us, to give us His wisdom, and also ask for humility. This is a prayer that I know I'm constantly saying and that we're going to be saying, honestly, until we die. We're human, right? So we are going to sin. At the root of all sin is pride. So we all have pride, and we all need to be more humble. That is something that all of us as humans need. So this is something that we need to ask God, beg Him to help us in this area, because we all need help in this area. So this is a prayer that you should be reciting often. We can do nothing without Him. Anything that is good within us, it's because of His grace. So we need to constantly be asking for these graces. We cannot give up on killing the pride that's within us, and instead increasing humility within us. This is an ongoing battle that all of us have to face. I want to encourage you, have courage, keep going, and never give up on the fight. Keep fighting the good fight. And remember, we do not serve our Lord in vain. Nothing that we do is in vain. He has something so much better for all of us. Something that the world can never offer us. Nothing that the world can give can compare to God's love, because God's love is the only thing that can truly, truly satisfy us. All right, guys, I'm going to stop here for today. I hope you guys got something out of this video and enjoyed it. Again, if you want to see all 7 deadly sins, well, now it's going to be 8 videos. You can go check out that playlist right now, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have an amazing day, and God bless.